Dare to Believe by Zain Bika. You can tune in to Nasheed Radio daily from 1 p.m. right here on Salam Media. It is 4 minutes past 12. You are listening to the Maryam Mkwanda Show. And shukran for joining me. All right, she is our hit list for today. Candice Chirwa, also known as the Minister of Menstruation, a thought leader with an avid interest in gender and youth issues in South Africa. Candice believes that women and girls deserve fundamental human rights. And let's chat to her and find out more about her activism when it comes to menstruation. Hi, Candice.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks, and yourself?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me today.
It's a pleasure. All right, let's start off with the name Minister of Menstruation. I mean, where did where did that come about, or how did it come about, rather?
So I think it was through the work that I do menstrual education workshops for young people, and a friend just gave me the title. He was just like, "I feel you deserve the title of Minister of Menstruation because you are, always on the ground working with people. You're also always challenging these period myths. So it's just one of these things of like." Questioning what would society look like if we actually had to have a minister of menstruation. And I think if we really did have to have a legitimate minister of menstruation, our world would be very period positive. We wouldn't necessarily see a lot of period myths existing. We wouldn't see a lot of young girls in particular feeling ashamed to talk openly about this natural and biological occurrence. So yeah, I think it's really I would say it's a self-proclaimed title, but it really does allow people to reflect more on what it is that they're doing in their own spaces in challenging period myths.
Mm-hmm. And not many people are vocal when it comes to menstruation and talking about periods. In fact, even now, it's still regarded as a taboo topic. And we were having this discussion earlier with my colleagues. So, why did you choose to break the silence and to talk about this and have a period positive world? And I mean, menstruation, there's absolutely nothing wrong, but we don't talk about it as much.
I think that is the issue in itself. That menstruation is stigmatized as a private issue and that it should be associated with shame. And I think because of the social restrictive behaviors that we've seen through culture and religion, a lot of the time what happens is that you have a generational passing of information based on misinformation rather that goes from one person to another. And I think these period taboos that we are trying to tackle, I see it every day, even in young adults who often believe that, it's the strangest things, but they'll often believe that if they wear another person's pants whilst they're menstruating, they'll absorb their cramps. Or if they, touch a flower, the flower will die quickly. And what this shows is that there's no critical thinking embedded in that because you're not really questioning the subjective manner of these period myths because there's no objective fact or truth to these period myths. So I think with our period myths, I think what it does really is it restricts menstruators to remain in isolation. And the reason why I'm so fascinated about menstrual health is because when I see how period myths have played out in different societies, for instance, in Nepal, India, and Tanzania, there are menstrual huts where menstruators are expected to isolate themselves for the period of their the duration of their period. And in 2017, a young girl passed away because she was trying to keep herself warm. So she died due to smoke inhalation. And that is essentially a violation of her human rights. Her human dignity was not respected in that moment, all because of her period. So I'm really fascinated in unpacking how is it that our period taboos can cause us to feel so ashamed about it when it's just natural biology that's happening. Every month, it is an unfertilized egg that is shedding. And somehow society's made it seem to be as a disgusting and shameful thing, when in fact it should be a natural thing. In fact, you menstruating is healthy. And so we are expected as menstruators in society, according to pop culture, according to these PMS jokes, to hate our periods, to feel
Mhm.
ashamed about them. And that shouldn't be the case. We should actually be empowered by this beautiful, natural occurrence that happens every month. So for me, it's just really about I'm breaking those taboos, dismantling them, no matter in whatever shape or form, and just really explaining to people that we need to look at the science and biology behind it rather than just jumping onto the subjective matter of it.
Speaking about the science and biology of it, what do young girls and even women not know about periods?
So I think what they don't know is because I mean I can credit the fact that our education curriculum like skates on our periods. They barely
Mm-hmm.
just tackle the biological process of every 21 to 35 days an egg will travel down the fallopian tube, meet into the middle of the uterine lining, and wait for sperm to be met. If there's no sperm, then the egg sheds its lining. But there's no actual information about the management of periods. There's no
Mm-hmm.
information about the symptoms menstruators go through. And on top of that, there's no proper comprehensive information about what it is that the boy child can do in being sensitive towards menstruators during this time of the month. So I think
Mm-hmm.
what's really important, biology, is that girls in particular always assume that when they're bleeding, because of social perceptions, when they bleed at the age of 8 or 10 years old, it's because they've had sex, or they
Mm-hmm.
think that they're going to die, or they think there's a disease, simply because we're not talking openly about these things, simply because we're not mentioning the biology of the fact that you will menstruate when you start puberty. Young girls don't even know about the process of puberty. They only will get into it once they start menstruating, and that is unfortunate because the first time a girl menstruates, she generally feels that her world is ending. So by having that fear, then talking about puberty with a fearful background and context, it therefore then it makes it doesn't allow for constructive and wholesome conversations to happen. So this is why in our menstruation workshops, what we do is we really just allow for the conversation of periods to be in a safe and fun environment. The
Mm-hmm.
participants will do really cool, fun activities. They'll be on their feet, they'll be dancing, but at the same time, they're learning about their bodies and themselves in a fun way. So it's never seen as a thing of I cannot talk about this openly. It'll be a thing of I've learned about this information and now I can share it with my friends. I can share it with my
Mm-hmm.
parents, and I'm empowered. So I think there needs to be that mind shift of how we engage in biology regarding puberty and other sexual issues, and not coming from a point of fear, but rather coming from a point of you know um, critical thinking. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, another myth when it comes to periods is that when a boy touches you, yeah, you're gonna fall pregnant. So make sure that no boy touches you in. Nobody must see, nobody must know. Just you just need to be quiet about this and go about your business, and nobody should do
And stay
anything.
away.
I remember back in school, in class, when we were trying to help each other out as girls and handing over pads, and we'd put it in a book, and then pass the book on to the girl who needs it, so that the boys don't know what's happening. But it's part of life. We cannot avoid this. As long as you are a woman who is fertile, you're probably going to experience this, and you're probably going to have to have menstruation. So, what does a period positive world looks like for you?
Yeah, it's such a loaded question because I think a lot of people don't even know what being period positive entails. Like, what does it mean to be period positive? And I think the first step is talking openly about it without feeling embarrassed. So no one else feels embarrassed to talk about it. I think it's simply
Mhm,
just having these conversations about our own personal experiences without the shame or fear, and also not stigmatizing our own periods. Because I personally, every month I menstruate, I can complain about how much I hate menstruating, but I'm never coming from a point of I really hate it, or I can't stand my periods because someone else told me to hate it. I think there
mhm,
should be some form of agency in allowing ourselves to love our bodies, but also, criticize it at the same time. So I think being period positive means that we should be able to openly have these conversations, share our experiences. But also, I think it also means sharing the information about period poverty so people can believe that period poverty is real. And then asking yourselves what it is that you can do in your own space in changing your community. Because I think we all have some form of power to say, okay, I know a young girl across the street who never has access to these pads. What I can do when I'm buying pads to myself is buy an extra three to give it to her so she can continue to go to school. It's little
Mhm.
changes like that that will allow for, society to change. I then think, from a national point of view, we need to have government prioritize the fact that menstrual health management needs to be seen as a human rights issue,
Mhm.
because as argued before, if girls don't have access to the necessary resources, i.e. the products, the proper sanitation, as well as the proper education to manage their periods, it violates their human rights, it violates their dignity. So government needs to prioritize that by ensuring that they have policy that covers young girls going into school, covers women going to work, being able to take period leave, and also menstruators who don't identify, who can still be able to have access to these products. It's very important that nationally government sets that priority. And then I also think it's just a matter of, in our own spaces, if we are parents, or if we are teachers or educators or
Mhm.
facilitators, being able to create the safe spaces and environments within the classrooms or the learning space, sharing educational content, either it be YouTube videos or comic books or illustrative books that really allow the kids to learn about themselves in an engaging manner so that they can be empowered about these things. I think that's really, really important.
Mhm. All right, so Candice, I have a question here from a WhatsApp line. How do we engage the relationship between girls and their fathers? Because especially if it's a single father having to raise his daughters, and now he sees his princesses becoming a young woman, and there's so much that goes on there, and he just it's an overwhelming experience for him.
Yeah, I mean the reality is that they are single father headed households, and
Mhm.
so I think the assumption is that fathers would then have to leave it to the woman in their lives to explain it to their daughters about periods, and this shouldn't be the case. Fathers are more than able to have open conversations about what periods mean to their daughters, and I think what they should do is they should equally engage themselves with the content, equip themselves with learning, researching, watching YouTube videos,
Mhm.
having conversations with the women in their lives about the process of periods, and then when their girl child starts menstruating, to have this conversation in a safe and fun environment. I would also maybe bring up an idea to fathers is that if their daughter starts menstruating, maybe throw a period party, have a period sleepover where the
Yes.
young girls can be surrounded with the woman in their lives and they share this information. There's a red velvet cake, they're having a good time, but it's in a safe environment and it's in an environment where there's no form of misinformation or fear. And I think that's
Mhm.
something we perhaps should normalize in this country, the ability to have period parties in this country. So yeah, I think fathers should equip themselves with the ability to just research, to learn, and then once they've gained that confidence about equipping themselves subjectively and objectively, they'll be able to impart it to their girl child.
Yeah, the period party idea is it's great. It's an excellent idea. It's like coming into
Yeah,
womanhood. Like, why not
yeah.
throw a party? This is just something. It's a joyous moment, and let's celebrate the girl child who has reached puberty. And well, I'll opt for the chocolate cake instead of the red velvet. But yeah, I think we should have those parties.
I agree.
All right. And, what are some of the challenges that women and girls face in 2021 when it comes to menstruation? I mean, we know already about the situation with the sanitary pads and young girls not being able to go to school because of
Mm.
not having pads. But then there are also other issues that they face when it comes to menstruation.
So I think with COVID being around, I think what COVID has done in particular for young menstruators is that the access to water has been greater. I think being at home and not being able to have access to water and in being able to change your period product, wash your hands, also the disposal of these products has made it a very great burden for young menstruators in low to middle income communities. I also think that COVID also showed a greater strength of humility and humanity rather, because a lot of organizations were able to pledge themselves to donating these pads. And I think what is now needed is a greater conversation in terms of sustainability of period products, because the lockdown was so long and pads can only go for a very short time. And so a young girl who needs these pads for every month and is only getting maybe like 10 packs is not the most sustainable thing. So I think there was a lot of conversations around sustainability of period products that we're distributing to young menstruators. And in particular, I think the access to water and infrastructure was spoken about last year, because the realities of pit latrines and menstruators being expected to change their pads, and there's no dustbin to throw these pads into, but rather a pit latrine is inhumane in itself. So I think there was a lot of opportunity to just really look at the lived realities of menstruators at home, because the reality is that young girls were not going to school during COVID, during the lockdown. And I think just also the access to education in terms of comprehensive sexuality education was also another thing, because I've read stories of young girls experiencing violence because they've stained their beds or they've stained their clothes. And because being in that home environment now, it's more stressful, it's more anxious. So I think for me, it shows that there's more of a holistic approach that's needed in tackling period poverty. You can't just distribute pads and assume you've tackled the issue. You've only tackled a quarter of the issue. There's still the infrastructure, there's still the education, and there's also still the access to medication as well, because girls do experience cramping. So if they're expected to go about their social activities, they should have some form of medication as well. So it is a holistic approach when dealing with menstrual health management, that us as society are only focusing on the access to products, and there needs to be more in that approach. Yeah.
Candice, we could go on and on and on and forget about things like ad breaks. So we'll take an ad break and then we'll continue when we return. So stay with us.
Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
As winter grips the Northern Hemisphere, refugees, IDPs, and other vulnerable communities are doing all they can to survive. Winter is already the hardest time of year, and in the current global context, this year could be even worse. With your help, Al Imdad Foundation is delivering life-saving winter warmth items in 12 countries globally, including Syria, Palestine, Yemen, Kashmir, and Pakistan. So be warm-hearted and sponsor a winter pack at just 600 Rand. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and free zakat calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Freedom Stationery supply Marlin and Marlin Kids pens to me and my school friends. They supply just about everything we need to help us get a better education, from books to files to rulers. In fact, any accessory Any accessory we need. Freedom Stationery. Education for the nation. What does accessory mean?
You are listening to Maryam Mkwanda live on Salam Media.
Welcome back. It is 12:23. You are listening to the Maryam Mkwanda Show, and I'm chatting to the Minister of Menstruation, Candice Chirwa, and she's talking to us about what she does, and hopefully she wants to change the world and make it more period positive. Candice, thank you for staying on the line with us. Now, when it comes to our working environment, it can also be a bit challenging, making as women, we have this notion that we don't want to make people feel uncomfortable because of what we're going through, etc. But like we've been saying, that menstruation is part of life. So how should male colleagues react when a woman in the office is having bad cramps or she's snapping at everyone? And the joke that they like to make is that, oh yeah, she's on her periods. That's why she's snapping at everyone, and she's all dragon lady and stuff. Somebody give her chocolate, or somebody buy her hot wings or something. Those are the type of things that the comments and jokes that they make when a woman is on her periods. But is there a way that we can, make the working environment less, how can I put it, less, it's kind of provoking, hey? I think it's provoking.
No, I agree. I agree with you. I think there needs to be a little bit more of education awareness and sensitivity training when it comes to our male colleagues. I think more in particular, I think our male colleagues don't understand that every month we do experience hormonal fluctuations. So it is expected that we can be a bit snappy or we can be a bit moody because our hormones are changing. And I think there needs to be some form of sensitivity towards that, and not using it as a way to justify that we're incapable of doing the work, because we are. I think the tagline, anything you can do, I can do bleeding, is something that should be more justified for menstruators in the workplace, because bleeding 7 days is a lot, because it's not just bleeding. You're experiencing symptoms of bloating, nausea, fatigue. Sometimes you experience brain fog, but that shouldn't justify the discrimination we face because of our biology. We didn't choose to menstruate, and thus you can choose to be at least sensitive towards that. So men can, I think men should actually research up a little bit more about the PMS, research up a little bit more about periods. And there's a lot of articles out there that talk about, especially in heterosexual relationships, what men can do to be genuine and intimate partners during this time, and loving partners during this time, without having to feel like they should hide in the corner because they're scared their girlfriend might retaliate. No, you simply just have a conversation about what it is that your girlfriend needs and what you can provide, and that's it. And I think in the office it's the same. If you know or you see that your colleague is having a difficult time, don't just simply say, oh, it should be, she's just on her period, therefore it's okay. I think it's a thing of like asking, are you okay? Do you need help? Is there anything I can do to make you feel better? Is there any form of medication you need? Do you want to take maybe an hour off? That is the best approach. But I don't think we should take it as a thing of like, let's completely cut them out of society, or let's just isolate them even further, because I mean that's what the menstrual taboo wants us to do. So but the fact that you're perpetuating that further is problematic. So I think it's just best to simply equip yourself with that education, learn to engage sensitively, and just always ask what it is that you can do in a humane way. Yeah.
Guys, if you are watching this, fathers, brothers, uncles, so whomever you are, if you're a male, normalize buying pads and any
Yes.
other menstrual items that you might need. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. You can walk into a shop. If you need to take videos and pictures, do it. It's going to help you, but normalize doing that. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. And if you need to ask for help from one of the ladies in the shops, do so and ask for help, because it's like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. I know people. We most of us do have brothers and husbands, and sometimes we don't have anybody to ask to send them to the shop. I mean, you'll be there curled up in all this pain, and you need your requirements, your monthly requirements, and you can't get them yourself because, I mean, you are in the situation. And then you try and send somebody, and he's like, yeah, I'm not going. I'm not going to buy those items. Those are for women, and you should have bought enough of them before you knew that you were going to have your periods. So that is another situation that we need to deal with, normalizing buying pads.
I agree.
Candice, any last words and advice?
Just to add on to your normalized buying pads, I think one thing that men should also understand is that when you buy the pads, people will know it's not for you. People will know that you're getting it for the woman in your life. So I think what's important is just to really get rid of that fear and also learn about these things. I remember in particular, a man was asking, so does the green one mean it's mint flavored? Is the yellow one? And it's like, no, it's different sizes. Learn about heavy flow, learn about medium flow. So just equip yourself with that education. You have nothing to lose by just researching about period poverty, and most importantly, just knowing what it is that you can do in your little community or wherever you work, and just changing the lives of menstruators. So I think that's just really, really important. Yeah.
You have everything to gain and nothing to lose. Candice, thank you so much for your time. Are you on social media? Please share your handles with us.
Yes, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Handle is at Candice_Chirwa. And on Facebook, you can follow my page, the Minister of Menstruation.
Thank you so much for your time and have a wonderful day.
Thank you for having me.
That was Candice Chirwa, the self-proclaimed Minister of Menstruation, taking us through what she thinks a period-positive world should look like. She believed that women and girls deserve fundamental human rights and that they should be getting these human rights. So we look forward to having a period-positive world, and you can find Candice on social media as Candice Chirwa on Instagram and Twitter, and Minister of Menstruation on Facebook. You are listening to the Maryam Mkwanda Show on Salam Media. We will be right back.